Back in January, I said in a video that Liz Cheney's rejection of Trump following the insurrection would be hard for her in the short term because she had very heavy planetary stress via the Saturn-Uranus square at that time and quite tightly opposing and squaring her Sun-Mercury conjunction. And I surmised that perhaps things would get better for her as both these big planetary influences, Saturn and Uranus, moved forward and away from those early degrees. Well, it's looking like the passage of time is showing that my expectations were a tad too optimistic, because here we are 3 or so months later and she appears to be doomed within the Republican Party. Of course, she herself has not helped her own cause, if you understand her cause to be maintaining her level of power in the House of Representatives, because she has been unrelenting in continuing to essentially repeat what we all know. Trump lost an election that Biden won fair and square, and he is lying to you when he says otherwise. The problem is, Trump's perhaps only one major accomplishment has been to hypnotize millions of Republican voters who either believe his BS or else just choose to believe it. But either way, these days, if you speak against the Orange Menace, the party unceremoniously rejects you as a traitor and they call you the liar. Now, I suppose I can give myself a bit of a pass since I don't have a birth time for Liz Cheney, and there are quite a few times that would give horizon lines with rising and culminating degrees that would put her in peril beyond just Saturn and Uranus opposing and squaring tightly like they did back in January. Also, such times may explain why she's so adamant in her rejection of Trumpism, but either way the result is the same. Nevertheless, is there something in the current astrology that explains her now almost certain demise? Well, aside from either the rising line and or the culminating line being hit by a planet or planets, which is reasonably possible since any planet from Saturn outward could do this, it may be enough to realize that Liz is in a Saturn opposition period from 2020 until the spring of 2023. If you go by degree proximity, you would think she's through the worst of it, but given that this huge bump she has just hit comes at a time when Saturn is building to a 13-degree station later this month, it would make sense to ascribe the problem to the difficult times a Saturn opposition period can correlate with. Another possible tricky transit would be produced by a birth time near the middle of the day, as I'm showing in this chart, because it would mean Neptune is directly square the moon, and that is definitely not good for your political career. Curiously, she is on her 2-year Mars return, which tends to correlate with some new type of beginning. So if she's demoted as the Republicans are threatening to do, then that is how it would fit. But if she escapes one more time, then perhaps will that get her through? I don't know. The problem is the Saturn station in October is a little too close for comfort in opposing her Sun and Mercury, and given how outspoken she is about her position and how insane the Republican Party is these days, I'm afraid I can no longer be optimistic about her future in the party. That said, I think she's making a better long-term bet than all the fools, by which I mean most or all of them, literally, that are betting on Trump, because our former president is most definitely in an astrological downward death spiral. So even if Liz loses in the short term, she'll be better off in due time when everything finally shakes out.